Let me begin thanking you for this opportunity to speak today in the Vuli. It's my first time that I have the opportunity to be in the Greek Parliament, and I am honored and happy about this. And I will introduce a few remarks on our strategy for a greener and fairer economy, also taking a few of the issues that was developed by our chair. Let me also thank Minister Staikouras for being here to attend this meeting. Be assured that I intend to engage as closely as possible with national parliamentarians during my mandate, and where better to start than in Athens, the cradle of European democracy, and also in a particular day because we are coming yesterday from some decisions in the European Commission that are strictly linked with the argument we are discussing this morning. I know very well that in Greece the social and economic effects of the last crisis are still keenly felt in the country. But after so many difficult years for the Greek people and so many efforts to get the country back on track, I'm very pleased that economic conditions are now clearly improving. Growth in 2019 is likely to have significantly outperformed the euro area average, which unfortunately is lowered. Unemployment has dropped below 17%, which is still very high, but continues to fall. Capital controls have been fully lifted, and confidence is at its highest level since 2007. This good news has started to pass through the Greek sovereign ratings, bringing a return to investment grade ever closer. The government's ambitious pro-growth agenda has fostered this positive sentiment and paved the way for last December's Eurogroup agreement to release €770 million of debt measures based on a favourable fourth enhanced surveillance report. As you know, the fifth report has just been finished and will be presented at the end of this month. In short, Greece has come a long way and is now in a much stronger position to face the challenges ahead. Last week, Europe lived a sad day as Brexit finally became a reality. Happily, the threat of Grexit no longer casts its shadow over Greece and the euro area. My message to you is that the European Commission will be by your side as Greece completes its journey back to normality and moves in step with the rest of the euro area to face the new challenges ahead of us. Our challenges, with clouds on the horizons, some linked to trade tensions and others to slower global growth, Europe needs to raise its game. We need to develop a more attractive investment environment. We need to create new economic opportunities and quality jobs, especially for young people. Europe faces a combination of short-term and longer-term challenges which are already knocking on our door. Climate change is an increasingly dramatic reality. The digital transition is changing the way we live and work. the prospect of low for longer growth is a real one. Low growth, low investments, low inflation. Against the background of trade disputes, an aging population, increasing inequalities among our citizens, and global warming. In spite of all efforts made by the European Central Bank, core inflation remains subdued. Inequality is on the rise, with the richest 1% of the population accumulating more and more wealth. So the challenge of making our economies more productive, more sustainable, and more inclusive is starker than ever before. A coherent strategy beyond monetary policy, which is increasingly constrained. A coherent strategy is therefore needed to avert the perspective of a slow growth and unequal economy. To steer the economy towards sustainable growth and jobs, we will need to deploy the full set of policy tools available to us. Let me mention three key priorities. First, making a success of the climate transition. This is the defining task of our times and the #1 priority for the Commission. I think it's very significant that the European Commission has this profile and has the ambition to lead the global challenge of climate transition. By the way, who else could lead this challenge of the climate transition, if not Europe? Global warming, the depletion of natural resources and continued biodiversity loss, together with increasing forest fires, floods and other natural disasters, threaten both lives and livelihoods. The European Green Deal is our ambitious response to this challenge and our roadmap to achieving climate neutrality by 2050, an ambitious target. As well as being an environment necessity, this is also a tremendous economic opportunity for Europe and for Greece, I think. The European Green Deal provides a framework for us to deliver the transformative change we need across all sectors. Many of them will be implemented in the Commission's first year in office. They are linked in the European Green Deal investment plan, which I presented last month, which aims, as the Chair reminded us, to mobilize at least 1 trillion of sustainable investments over the next decade, and which also has a mechanism to face the social difficulties, contradictions, and consequences of the climate transition. This is the so-called Just Transition Fund that should be used in areas where the transition is more necessary because of the high level of emissions and could create more serious social consequences. And there are regions in your country that are especially interested and affected by this issue. Let me also briefly mention specific initiatives I will be working on in the coming year as part of our efforts to deliver the climate transition in a fair manner while protecting European interests. First, we will be reviewing our energy taxation framework, which is 17 years old and no longer fit for purpose, with its privileged treatment of outright exemptions for certain types of fuel or certain modes of transport. Second, we will be designing a carbon border adjustment mechanism. Always complicate definitions and acronyms in EU. Carbon border adjustment mechanism, to ensure that progressing towards carbon neutrality in the EU does not lead to industrial jobs and investment moving beyond our borders to countries that do not share our level of ambition. Clearly, this mechanism will have to be designed in a way that it is compatible with WTO rules. Second challenge, adapting our economic governance to the new reality, to the new context. Yesterday, I presented the Commission's review of our economic governance framework, marking the start of 5 months of public debate with member states, governments, parliaments, and that's you, the European Parliament, the European Central Bank, other institutions, stakeholders, academia. This will be the public consultation on our governance framework. I really hope that this will be a constructive and result-oriented discussion, because we need a result-oriented discussion. We are not discussing for history or for making a think tank meeting. Looking back over the past few years, it is fair to say that our rules have helped to reduce deficits. 24 countries were in excessive deficit procedures in 2011. None is today, and have improved the coordination of our fiscal policies. We have now a common timing and common targets in our fiscal policies, even if we maintain fiscal policy in the power of national governments and parliament. We have had mixed results with the reduction of debt. Overall, public debt has been reduced to around 86% of GDP in the euro area and 79% of GDP in EU in general. If we consider other global players, we see that the US has debt of 115 and Japan 237%. But our reduction was not a uniform reduction, and besides Greece, also in a number of other countries, debt remained around of above 100% of GDP. This is why, about debt, I'm saying that we had mixed results, declining public debt, but with differences among member states. I would say the complexity of our rules is also a mixed result, in the sense that our rules have become more intelligent over the years, because complexity is frequently intelligence. It allows flexibility, it allows to take political decisions when needed, but at the price of becoming more complex, which has been bad for ownership of decisions by member states, as well as making it more difficult to explain those decisions to our citizens. And then there are some clear shortcomings in this economic governance. For sure, we were not able to have an anti-cyclical set of rules. And we were not able to increase the rate of public investment, which has, in fact, decreased in the last 20 years and in the last 10 years. Now, we are in very different times from when these rules, the six-pack and the two-pack, were delivered. 10 years ago, we were in a deep crisis. Then we had several years of recovery or even a robust expansion in our economy. Now, as I mentioned already, we are in a phase of low growth, which risks becoming protracted. So deep crisis, strong or substantial growth for several years, and now low growth with the risk of low for long. So we need to ensure we preserve stability, to be sure. Nobody is discussing the fundamental pillars of our stability. But equally, we need to make sure we can mobilize the immense investments required to tackle climate change and transition to the future. We have put on the table a series of questions in this review of our economic governance, which include how to better ensure sustainable public finance and tackle macroeconomic imbalances, how to avoid pro-cyclical policies, how to support growth-friendly public finances and incentivize reforms and investment, how to make the framework simpler and more transparent, how to make the framework more focused on gross errors. In this discussion, we will need both ambition and an extraordinary effort to bridge differences and work constructively for meaningful improvements, making an effort to have a common vision. This is not a technical exercise. This is about jobs, well-being, and protection of our communities. So I count in your active engagement, the Parliament and the government of Greece, in this public debate. My third and last point, the completing of the Economic and Monetary Union. We need to make decisive progress during this mandate in completing the Economic and Monetary Union. This is a priority for the euro area to become the engine of growth, prosperity, and stability. I want to be clear, we need to go further than what has been agreed so far. We collectively need to cross those red lines that have generated a stalemate, because we are now in a stalemate in completing the Economic and Monetary Union. So I urge also you to continue supporting the Commission's push for deeper integration. Also, if we know that some of the Commission proposals were not capable to fly in the last couple of years because of different positions among member states. But completing the financial union is a prerequisite for ensuring stability of the euro area and spurring private investment on the scale needed to address the medium-term challenges, including the green transition. Member states, even if we will facilitate through the rules, will not be able, member states, to generate sufficient funds on their own. The banking and capital markets union are also necessary to reduce the fragmentation of banking and capital markets, increase private risk sharing, and thus bolster investor confidence in the euro area. So, honourable members, the economic crisis has undermined trust among member states. This is the fact, with a sharp divide between debtor and creditor countries. To move forward, we have to overcome this divide. We need to rebuild confidence, and to do so, a diplomatic effort will not be enough. Confidence must be built up around a common vision and project. This is the opportunity offered to us by the challenge of the climate transition, which will be the defining mission of the next 5 years, and which I urge you to actively support. Thank you. Efaristo. Grazie.